Rồi phút đó.
Okie dokie. Hello, everyone. This is exciting. This is nice. Thank you for coming in on what? A December Tuesday. It's a little cold and a little dark, and I don't like it, but I'm here with you, and I do like that. Um, yeah, I'll give a more formal introduction in a second, but I'm Roddy. I work for Hollywood Fringe. I'm the programs director here at Hollywood Fringe Festival. That is my title. But we'll get into all that in a second. First, welcome to the scholarship panel. I'm just going to do some little announcements at the top of this before we get the ball rolling and we join our panelists, which I'm excited for. And I printed this out because I like a prop. Okay. So this is the Hollywood Fringe Scholarship Panel. Um, as you'll see with a lot of our programming in town halls and workshops, we have a land acknowledgement at the beginning, and I didn't want to butcher it. So, a land acknowledgement, for those that don't know, is a formal statement that recognizes and honors Indigenous peoples of the land that we presently reside and or work on. And for Hollywood Fringe, the Hollywood Fringe acknowledges that we are on the unceded lands of the Gabrielinos, Tongva, and Chumash peoples, and our statement serves as a practice as we commit to furthering our connection to the Indigenous communities of past, present, and emerging. We'll also do a little bit more of an introduction in a second too, but Ellen, our co-festival executive director, is in the chat helping with the live stream and is also dropping down all of these helpful things that you'll see in the chat. So you're in good hands. You can find more information about the land acknowledgement and some helpful resources and links at hollywoodfringe.org/land that Ellen just dropped in there. Something else I would like to discuss is while we're in Zoom, if you need to turn on closed captioning. So I have a little bit of a little to-do list or a how-to. And if you'd like to see more or interested in the closed captioning feature on Zoom, you'll head to the bottom of the Zoom screen where you control where the control bar is. And there's a couple of different Zoom functions. Right there, you'll see an icon labeled show captions. If that icon doesn't appear on the Zoom bar, just click on the more for additional functions. It'll be right there. Click on that. The closed captioning comes on, and that's all you need to do for that. It is individually, so if you turn yours on, you're not going to turn someone else's on. Don't worry about it. It's totally fine. For those watching on YouTube, you're going to click the CC icon on the video player to turn on the available captions, or to tap the screen on mobile and select the CC icon. Yes, those are the two things that you need to know. And then a little bit about this panel. So, you've registered for this panel. You kind of have an idea. It's the scholarship panel, where we're going to talk with some past scholarship winners, our committee deliberation members, and where fringe staff will dive into the scholarship application process and what a deliberation member is looking for when they're reading applications. Yeah. Oh, and we're also going to, at the end, break out to answer some questions that are brewing in the room. So don't worry, we'll get those answered. And with this being the Hollywood Fringe Festival and one of our first events, some of you aren't fully familiar with the festival, totally fine. We do have a code of conduct, and I very briefly want to do a little code of conduct overview. Ellen will drop a link that kind of has a more in-depth breakdown, but for in the room for right now, our code of conduct applies to show content and participant behavior while participating in the Hollywood Fringe Festival, and that's both in person or in these virtual spaces. Just things to keep in mind. We are striving to eliminate microaggressions within our community. Verbal and physical intimidation, hate speech, or harassment are absolutely not allowed. Sexual harassment, sexual assault are completely forbidden. Sexual harassment includes unwanted touching, comments, lewd positions and gestures, as well as aggressive behavior. Don't engage in aggressive behavior. There's no place for it at the festival. And that can, aggressive behavior can include, but not limited to, physical violence, physical and verbal threats, and verbal altercations, just so that we're having definitions so we know. Also, as we all engage in the festival, if we see or hear of any of the actions that I just mentioned, please let a member of staff know and report it. That can either be done in person or at our email conduct@hollywoodfringe.org. This email is exclusively monitored by Fringe staff and is responded to within 48 hours. Those are the important things that I need to tell you. And oh, I have something else to tell you. That is about the scholarship program because in years past we've had different versions and iterations of the program. It continually evolves as we learn more. And this year is no exception. There are some additions. I'll give you the rundown and tell you what they are. So, the Hollywood Fringe Scholarship exists to expand and diversify a pool of artists producing work at the Hollywood Fringe Festival. It started the scholarship in 2016, and the program has funded currently up to date 116 productions, which has been really exciting. The Fringe Scholarship has traditionally been awarded to first-time Hollywood Fringe producers who identify as one or more of the following, whether that be BIPOC, which includes Black, Indigenous, and/or people of color, disabled, D-deaf, and/or blind. And then we also encourage Spanish language productions and other non-English productions to apply as well. Here's the update. Here's the new piece of that you need to know. This year, applications are also additionally open to BIPOC, disabled, D-deaf, and/or blind artists who have previously participated at Hollywood Fringe before, but have not won a monetary award from the Fringe Festival within the past 5 years. Meaning, if you are a BIPOC, disabled, D-deaf, and/or blind artist who participated in the festival and has not won a monetary award prior to 2019, you are fully available to the scholarship and this opportunity. That's the big difference that we've had this year. Oh, right, and pitch new work, and you must reside in LA County. That is another thing that we're kind of making sure everyone is aware of. Okay, those are all the updates. Those are all the things you need to know. I'll give you a formal introduction of who I am, other than just my title and what I do here. Again, hi, I'm Roddy. I'm your programs director here at the festival. My pronouns are he, him. For a visual description, I'm a male presenting Latina male. I'm wearing currently a brown knitted sweater. I've got curly hair, it's a little short, and some glasses on. I started at the festival in 2023 as a scholarship recipient. And then the following year, I was lucky enough to join the team as an administrator. And I believe now for the past 2 years, I've been on the admin team, helping artists and assisting and facilitating the festival. Um, Ellen, are you okay? I know you're juggling a lot of things right now, and if not, that's fine. Can you introduce yourself? Is that okay?
Hi, everyone. I'm Ellen. I'm the co-executive director at Hollywood Fringe, and I'm so excited to be here in the 10th year of this program. I was here for year one, and I'm so excited to be here for year 10. This is going to be a really special year. And thank you so much. I'll be in the chat, so if you need anything during the panel while Roddy is facilitating the larger picture, I'm here for you in the chat.
Amazing. And yes, I may get lost in our conversation, so Ellen is really keeping me on track with not only these helpful links, but also I want to catch the questions that get thrown into the chat. So Ellen as well, like interrupt me whenever, it's totally fine. But that leads me now to, before we get into questions, introducing our panelists. So I'll kick it off. I realize that every time I do this, I introduce the panelist's name, and I don't know how to fix it on Zoom. It's fine. It's whatever. Christopher, before we jump to TL, can you introduce yourself with your pronouns, a visual description, and tell us a little bit about your Fringe experience or what connection you've had or have to the Fringe Scholarship Program?
So many things.
I know. I'll repeat it if you need.
I will need you to. Hi, everybody. My name is Christopher Moncayo Torres, he, him, and I am also male presenting, Latino, average height. Light skin, curly wavy hair. I'm wearing a gray cardigan because I'm in my grandpa core fashion era. So, but that being said, what was after that, Roddy? Help me out here.
Oh yeah, no, tell us a little bit about your Fringe experience, and what your connection has been to the Fringe Scholarship Program.
Yeah, I did my show, which was a solo-ish slash two-person show with my father. Him and I were on stage, and we just did a lot of storytelling and some like theatrical things together. He has no theater background, just an 80-year-old Ecuadorian man that with the scholarship, paid him to do this show because that's how my dad operates. So that was 2024, really helpful. That was my introduction to LA. Actually, I had just landed here, and the scholarship gave me a boost of confidence to stay in LA, really. And I found it a great way to make community, and I've met so many people. Obviously, I'm still connected with all of y'all. And yeah, doing the show, getting the scholarship, getting some awards thereafter was a fantastic way to um, just kind of really boost. It's just been yeah, I'm very grateful. Without the scholarship and without Fringe, and I've been thinking about this a lot. Um, yeah, I think my trajectory in LA could have been very different. So I'm very lucky. Yeah, so I'm happy to be here and offer any insight I can.
Thanks, Christopher. Yeah, I think there's just something amazing about the program that I also am like, oh, I can really track my trajectory from there, and I'm very grateful for it. So I'm really excited we're all here. And TL, could you please introduce yourself, your pronouns, a visual description, and if you could tell us a little bit about your Fringe experience and what your connection has been to the Fringe Scholarship Program.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone. I'm really excited to be here. My name is TL or TL. My pronouns are she, her, or hard of hearing. You'll see that pop up in the deaf culture now. We're sort of encouraging adding on our identification with being proud as a member of the deaf culture. To let you know, I'm not going to keep signing. I'm just going to talk from here on out. Let's see. I am female presenting. I am light skinned with dark black hair. I'm wearing burgundy against a poster of my next solo show, Between Two Worlds Chronicles of the Not Deaf Enough Girl. Yeah. Let's see. My experience at Fringe has been also life-changing and really beautiful. Prior to that, I've been touring for 11 years in the deaf culture, and it was my first hearing festival. And it was such a positive one. I got a scholarship during COVID. It stopped 1 year and then I came back the next year. So I had a 2 year experience of being in the scholarship ride. And it was so supportive and so wonderful that since then I opted in to like let me mentor other people, let me join the access committee, which became this advisory board. And I'm happy to be here again and support the scholarship because I think it's important for diverse people to be telling their stories. So I'm all about Fringe. Hope I can bring something to it. Yeah.
Ah, I'm really excited, and I like that this is kind of one of the first events that we do to kick off the Fringe Festival of the coming year.
Right.
Yeah, just while I was like sending out the reminders to everyone, that like registered for this panel, it was a full house. I'm really excited. This is exciting. I also noticed that people are emoting, and I didn't know about this. And this is, please feel free to emote. It's very encouraging. I feel very good about it. I've seen them pop up. It's very helpful. Uh, But for those of you who've just joined, because I know we're admitting a couple, oh wow, oh you're all very sweet. Oh, that's so nice. Oh, I feel like that's the Zoom way of asking for applause. Now I feel a little bad. It's okay. We'll keep going. Um, Some of you just joined in. I saw because we were admitting people in. If you're just joining, we have Christopher and TL joining us on the panel. I work at Hollywood Fringe, and the following questions are broken up into two sections. The first half is how is us kind of basically going through the application. Each question is kind of loosely associated to an application question. So it's as applicants, these are the questions for our panelists. And then I have questions that are for TL and Christopher through the lens of deliberation committee members. How do you guys look at applications? That's the format. And I'll give you the first question. I don't know why I made it sound like a game show. But so my first question is, how much did you know about Hollywood Fringe or fringe festivals in general before the scholarship? This is kind of a get the ball rolling kind of question, and I'm genuinely curious because I don't know. Uh, Christopher TL, whoever wants to take it first, go for it, please.
Sure. And of course, just being mindful of time. I knew about fringe culture. I'm originally from Queens, from New York. I had just landed in LA, so I'm familiar with fringe. Over there, I think now it's frigid. I could be wrong on that. Um, but I had known about Edinburgh. I knew a lot of people that did it. I admittedly wasn't interested in self-producing. I just knew that was just a lot of work. I knew friends that they loved it, but it was so stressful for them. And money is always a thing. A friend of mine invited me to the info session that happened, I think, around January, if I'm not mistaken. That was, yeah, 2024. And I went, got the info about the scholarship. Ellen and Lois have heard me tell this story a lot of times, but I'll give you the very, very short version. I found out that the application was due that night. And so I came in thinking I was going to do a solo show, like so many men in that room, about their dads. And I didn't want to do that. So very last minute, as I spent the whole night working on that application, I came up with this concept to do a show with my dad. And that application actually really helped me churn out what I want it to be, those questions. Kind of the pressure really helped me. I don't recommend that to anybody here. But that was my intro to Fringe, and that was sort of how the idea for the show came up. The questions just kept kind of like, oh, well, how am I going to represent a community here? What if I have a member of the community? My dad is Ecuadorian. I'm Ecuadorian American. I grew up in New York, but my dad's born and bred from Ecuador. And it is, Roddy, as you know, like an Ecuadorian-ish kind of story. And so that was helpful. That was kind of my intro.
Yeah, I'll jump on board. I basically knew about fringe culture from Canada because I'm from Toronto. In Toronto, they have a fringe festival there that's very like, whoa, people hit that one up. And I'd heard a lot about it. Hadn't done a solo show, but I had toured as a musician, and each of my shows were kind of like a solo show. And so this was my first time kind of exposed to the Hollywood Fringe Festival. My director suggested it and said, why don't you apply? You know, they're really open to diverse. And it was very empowering for me because I didn't know what it would be like being kind of like pretty much the only hard of hearing or deafish person in the festival. So it was nice for me, and because there was so many diverse elements, I think my show hit multiple because of being deaf, having a disability, and I had a trans character that unpacked my show. So there was a lot of fluidity of the queer culture that I participate in. So it was a great moment for me to go, I am diverse, own it. And then like apply for something. It also helped me massage the message of my show and really like pull that out and own it. So I felt grateful for the process, and I was grateful to be chosen, and it was a great ride. Yeah.
Incredible. And TL, Christopher kind of already answered it, which is fantastic. But I'm gonna throw it to you as well. How long when you were filling out the application did it take you to fill out the application? Was it like a one night, one and done application process, or was there some more time taken with it?
Yeah. I don't know if this is the answer you want. It didn't take me long. Sorry.
No, and
Because
we'll get into this. No, no, it's
had
totally fine.
I had already kind of toured my show for like a year and a half, so I had massaged out all of the key pieces from applying at other festivals, and I had my materials ready to go, and so I just dropped them in. It was about reviewing them and making sure I was really articulating what I wanted to say about my show, but I'd had that previous experience of working up to other festivals to get the materials ready. So that was a huge benefit just personally for me. But I do recommend you take your time to do it.
I want to add to that because I don't want people to think like, oh, I could just be not so prepared. I do want to say like I've been at that point. I was doing storytelling, live storytelling for 10 years. I had videos. I'm an instructor with the Moth, if you know what that is. So like
Right.
I had the chops in the background, and there were stories that I'm like, oh, I've told these stories for years. So that's kind of also what it was like the application was asking me to like, all right, well, you have all these materials, piece them together. And I had only done one solo show before that my dad did attend, and that was kind of the other, oh, like he fell asleep during my show, he took a phone call during my show, like multiple things where I'm like, oh, what if I have him on stage and him do all that stuff because he's gonna do it again. But yeah, I'm saying this also to sort of TL's point, like being kind of prepared is important as well. And so
Yeah.
like I had the things.
Yeah. And like you in the moment decided to go from solo to like a two-hander in a sort of a way
Right.
that in the middle of the process you still get to be creative and go, you know what, this is what my actual voice is. And I don't want to deter anybody. Like if they want to play, they should say yes to it because I said this last year and someone didn't like it, I don't think, but like it's a great way to polish your voice is get in there because people ask you questions. It's like being interviewed and you're like, oh, let me get in here and really get clear about what it is I am saying. So it can be beautiful that way. And there was somebody in last year who submitted really quickly and said, I just have an idea for a show and I don't even know that it's this. And it was really not fully presented well. And it didn't get a scholarship, but the festival that I'm with, we ended up giving it the Fierce Award. And I remembered it from the scholarship because I remember feeling the vulnerability of what she said in just those two sentences of like, oh my God, this happened and I'm writing a show about it.
That's
So
so
it's like, trust to just get it in there,
yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think you guys are giving also like really fascinating two sides of the coin here. Well, I mean, you also came together too to discuss this, but and no, Tia, I think you're right. Like when you're filling out the application, you are discovering your show a little bit more than you had thought because you're getting these additional questions that you weren't fully aware of potentially. While also sorry, I wanted to talk about this application because it's on a Google like form. It's not very long, but also Hollywood Fringe is a play space for new producers and artists that want to platform their work, many of which have hardly ever produced a show before. They're like, I'm an actor and I will be learning producing. I'm a writer. I will also be learning producing. This is a testing ground, and the application is kind of similarly structured where it isn't really a scholarship application that is meant being like, oh, I'm always applying to grants 24/7. I understand the structure. I know how this is done. No, this is a little bit of a beginner's like application where you can ease yourself into learning how to apply for a scholarship, how to present yourself in such a way. So yeah, and I think that last time TL, you even said like last time being last year, even if you're like don't even like take the questions that are in the application and just answer them for yourself personally, and it'll
Right.
still help a ton. I think that was really good advice. I think from
Yeah.
like just a creative standpoint of like how do you get your creative juices, your production brain thinking.
Mhm.
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight that.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you something that's a question in the application, which is about pitching your show. And I feel like this is always the beginning of it all. I mean, well, there's a whole culture of office hours that we can talk about later, but it's a thing, where you really start pitching your show. But what I wanted to ask is when you were first writing this down, TLU had had all this experience of the show on tour, so you kind of had that language.
Mhm.
Um, but please feel free to add to this as well. How, Christopher, did you kind of pitch your show? How did you even approach that question? What was super important to you that you needed to include in that pitch? And then TL, if you, because Christopher's thinking about it, if you already know, you go for it. Like, how did you know what was important to you to write in what is often a 250 to 500 word pitch?
Wow. I mean, I wish I could go back and look at it, honestly, because it was a while ago. But I can just tell you this right now because we just had a whole meeting because I'm doing Solo Fest talking about pitching yourself. And I think, there's certain there was a lot of talk or this time around about like, do write your own pitch. Like, don't chat GPT it. Like, that's just something, right? Like the M dashes and all of the language, like it's a transformation, a journey. It's like everything's coming out very washed. Like, do take the time to put your own language. If you want to clean it up in chat GPT or tighten it, that's a different story. But I encourage people to like really be in their true voice with it. I think it's always important too to actually state like what give us a feel of what the character go like this is what happens a little bit in the story, right? Just so people kind of can get a feel for what they're going to be seeing. But for me, I knew because the application was going towards diverse that I really wanted to emphasize that and make sure that I led with some key sound bites about being a member of the deaf culture, having a disability and living openly about it, those kind of things. Um, I think those things are important. Yeah.
Um, it's funny. I always, it's never gonna happen, but I always have this fantasy of wanting to be in the room when they talked about my application. Um, and now, right, and Tia, we were there last year. We were on the committee. We were going over it, and so the back and forth was so interesting because people were so passionate, advocating for pieces and all of that. And but I say all that to sort of wonder. I guess for me, verbally, when I would go to meetups, and then also for the application, I think I was discovering like, oh, I guess it is different to have your parent on stage. And so I was sort of leaning onto like, okay, well, what makes my thing different? My dad doesn't have a background in anything. So I will be parenting the parent. So that's a big theme in my show. And so that became like the theater model of like, okay, he's not gonna remember his marks. So I put him in a chair with wheels and I take him where I need to go. There's boxes that have pieces of paper for him to read, etc. But I think I was sort of thinking, okay, well, my dad's in there, so even now I would tell people, oh, I did a show with my dad, and people immediately, oh, so your dad's an actor, and I got ready to be like, he's not, and then people are more interested in that, especially if it's an immigrant dad, especially if I'm talking with somebody who has that experience of an immigrant parent, who's sort of like, why are you an artist? What is that? Um, so that became easy. I learned though through making mistakes. If that's helpful to people in the room, I would go to these to the office hours. I would go to the meetup, and I would spend way too long. I'm sort of being an inner critic, but I would be like, okay, I'm noticing it's taking me a long. I'm talking a lot, and so
Right.
more and more I was trying it. If you have the capacity, that's sort of to the room, get ready to like, okay, first couple of conversations are gonna be really long. And I would learn how people will react. I'm like, oh, people get really excited about the dad piece. People get really excited that he's not this, or like, oh, that's different. Oh, how did you convince him? And then I would mention the scholarship, and there was these little sound bites that I was sort of okay. Well, this is what people are interested in.
Yeah.
So I would say lean into failing, air quotes, in trying things out with people because sometimes people ask questions, and that was really helpful. People being like, "Oh, okay, I guess I should mention that when I'm talking with you casually," or having flyers, etc., that kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. And I think because we mentioned office hours, which is really in the midst of Fringe, but I just realized I'm like, oh no, we're kind of touching on something that even happens away from that that could be prepared a little bit. So it's kind of like try to pitch to your friends, see what they're attracted by on your story. Like what is the most thing, what's jumping out to them? What do they have questions for? I think that's also a good thing of when addressing the application to kind of get into. And my next question is about oh, apologies. I took off my sweater. I'm now wearing a purple striped shirt. It was just a little hot, and I'm drinking a lot of tea because I'm a little congested. So if I sound stuffed up, sorry about that. But my question for everyone, for Christopher TL, um, we were talking about in the application, there is a production team or the size of that. And sometimes artists, when they're filling out, they're like, oh, I don't really know. My question for both of you is, did you know what roughly your production team size was? What was the size of your production team? And how did you meet them? I'm very curious because I know, yeah, I'm just curious.
Yeah. Oh, I guess I'll jump in. Yeah. Well, I had a small team. I had a graphic designer, Yannicka Olin, who I worked with, who's a solo artist who's fabulous. Also a fellow person with a disability. So I like to keep my team, in the camp if I can. And my director was queer, Jessica Lynn Johnson. So that was important. I developed my show in her community. So that was really great. So my team was kind of small, maybe on the books, but then I had a lot of other coaches and people that worked with me to prepare me mentally in terms of getting ready to be witnessed in a story that had a little trauma in it and stuff like that. So, but I knew that it would be good to lead with some of that information, that the individuals I'm working with are also diverse, because that's something that the scholarship will look at. Like, oh, the artist might be diverse in one area. Is the team diverse? Is there sort of this collective representation moving through it? That certainly, I think, empowers the application as well. So if you have that, I would include it for sure. I don't know if that answered your question, but
I
I mean, oh, go for it, Christopher. The answer is yes, TL. It did answer the question, and we're gonna get into more. No worries. Christopher, you jump in.
for me, because I actually have my application here. I'm sort of looking at it, and I was so ambitious. I wrote, I have 4 to 5 people on my team. I did not have 4 to 5 people on my team.
liar.
Yeah, yeah. I had a lot of big dreams in this application. It's so interesting. Well, I'll say this. I think in my case, I was hoping to have more people on. I didn't have a formal director, and not meaning like I had somebody who wasn't a director, but like I didn't have a director. It was sort of just me and my dad building the show as we went. I did have a collaborator, a producer more so, that was very helpful in marketing, funding, things like that. But my team was very small. I kind of relied on the venue in regards to logistics there, but a lot of my collaborating, opposite sort of to what TL was saying, was like really just me and my pops. But yeah, it was a bit daunting in that sense. I'm trying to think if there was anybody else really. I mean, yeah. I'll pause there, but my team, I had written, I'd hoped to get more people, but I ended up really just having my dad, myself, and a producer, a co-producer.
Mm-hmm. No, and it will see varying sizes of production teams. Sometimes in the application, it's filled out as a duo. Sometimes if it's like they're co-writing, they're co-producing, that's totally fine. It's just like there's kind of an additional questions at the very end, like let us know. It just helps us a lot and fill out the application like that. Super informative. Also, though, yeah, I think sometimes it's that artists are like, oh, my team is perceivably very small, but then TL, you're even talking about how like there are some things that like it might not be completely production centric, but it's like, no, oftentimes scholarship applications are discussing identity, and that can be a lot sometimes. And so having an additional person that's like, oh, you might not, my friend might not be marketing my show, they might not even be producing my show, but they're just my friend and they're helping me in that I can like decompress and I can unwind from my rehearsal to then jump in to my everyday, the rest of my day. I think that's also equally as important. But also when I did it in 2023, the scholarship program, I was fairly fresh out of college at about a year, and I was like, well, I don't really know that many people, and I don't really know what I should write for this question. And then the more I started like thinking about the story I wanted to write, the more I was like, well, actually, I went to theater. I got a degree in theater. I know people like from CSUN. Like it's a small, albeit circle compared to all of LA. But I was like, wait a minute, like, oh my God, I had these wonderful productions and I didn't direct my piece. I wasn't even in my piece. I had just written it and produced it. So I was like, well, I know I want a stage manager, and I knew someone that I had worked with, and I had known a director, and we all just decided to do this endeavor, and it then became this thing of, okay, there are like 3 core people that I put down on my production, and then I was like, of course there are going to be X amount of actors, and that's a thing, but like here are the people that I need, and we're not necessarily asking like, oh, we need to know that there are 8 core members to your production. It's like, no, it's if you understand the weight of what a fringe production can be, and how intense that can be, if you have the right um headspace of what you're going into, that will read as well in the application, which would be super helpful. But there's another question that also trips applicants up because they don't really know what to answer here, and I fully get it. So I want to pick your brains on this. TL, how did you market your show during Fringe? And even more importantly, though, what was your game plan? Like, what was the initial game plan that you had? I know there were a couple of years, it was the 2020, 2021, so things were all a little bit different, but I'd love to pick your brain on how did you market your show and what was the game plan?
Yeah. Well, the year that we actually came back from COVID, right? So
Yeah.
scholarship, then we stopped and then came back and it was the hybrid year. So that was really an interesting challenge, one might say, but it was actually kind of magical because we all had this spirit of like, we're keeping theater going. The community just came together in such a beautiful way with the hybrid model. And I am a hybrid, so I was like down for it. For me, I was just I do it in the way that I approach my art, which is kind of in a spiritual process of like I'm not just creating a show. I'm like opening the rib cage up and letting my soul be seen. You know what I mean? Especially when I'm talking about some controversial issues about being, whether I'm considered deaf or not in the culture. There was some charge in it, so I knew that I wanted my marketing to be vulnerable. So I made posts along the way about how I felt about it. In fact, during my tech, I stepped up on the block and re-herniated my back and opened the show wearing a back brace. Didn't know if I would be able to walk on stage. Through the whole festival run, I was wearing a back brace the whole time, took it off and went on stage. Like,
Oof.
and I made a
Wow.
post about it, like lying on bed saying, I don't know if I'm going to be able to walk my show, but my commitment is to show up. If I have to sit in a wheelchair, I will. I'm talking about disability anyway. And that was the one that went viral because people were like, "Oh my God, what's happening? Is she going to be able to show up in Mark?" That's crazy. So I did that, and I highly recommend, like, really, obviously the social media posting. Then what I also did was Jessica's community is really good, but I wanted to step out of that community and really go into the community. So myself and Kevin Neighbors did our own kind of Facebook actor on actor for Fringe. And we basically got a whole group of people and we interviewed, I think, 20 some different artists on their shows and posted it and cross marketed our shows. And of course, while we were interviewing them, we were plugging our own shows and getting our algorithm up there. So that felt good just to be talking to other artists about their journey. So I did that. I went to all the office hours, hired a publicist. I did all the things, texted people. Texting's good. I went to different spiritual communities. My show talks about addiction. I went to addiction communities. I went to sex positive communities because my show talks about that. Trans community. I went everywhere I could think of to just invite people. So I went hardcore at it. Yeah.
I highly recommend texting. Something about the mass messages. I understand why. I noticed I got more turnouts when I was just directly contacting people. That's one thing. Office hours agree. For me to add something different because I did a lot of the similar things. I went to a lot of especially like identity-based open mics or places that were sort of like here's a 10-minute slot or here's a 5 and of course I would show up in a way that's like okay well let me first witness what are these people up to instead of just being like here's a spot okay flyer peace deuces
Right.
which I think I was guilty of doing at first and then the more that I showed up for some community centers other locations, other events, other people, especially meeting other people of color who were just doing art making things, who I'm still in touch with now. Um, did everybody show up that I had made some sort of relationship? No, but a lot of them did. And so it was good practice for me to sharpen up my show anytime I did an open mic. But I also, I was going to say this later, but I'll say it now. There's life after Fringe. And I think that's really important to remember. I think I've met some people who sort of high stakes, stressful wise were like the 5 performances, the 3 performances, June. And it's like, I was lucky getting some guidance, funny enough, from Ellen, from Lois, of like, and then after June, you will meet these people still. And that was really helpful. So I'm glad that I went sort of showing up for folks and making those connections instead of just dropping off a flyer and being like, okay, I got, and it makes sense to do the drop off flyer thing. Like, I don't want to throw shade to anybody who does that. There's
Right.
just so much to do when you're self-producing. But I think I went for like, okay, well, I'm gonna stay here. So how can I set some roots in an intentional way? And not every way went well, but I think that was how I marketed it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
can I
uh,
add to that? I think that people, it can be very stressful to be about filling the houses. We always want good numbers and we make an investment, but there's something also really beautiful and surrendered. I do this, it's a bit spiritual. I'm doing it now for my next show of like, instead of like trying to beat myself with another sellout show, I'm just like, who are the people that really need to be in this house to hear this story? Like I'm doing like sitting and meditating and going, who needs to come? And I've had like young girls that are like, I'm hard of hearing like you, and I see you on Facebook, and oh my God, it's gonna be a book. And I like, you're the reason I'm going to Solo Fest and doing, or a friend or whatever it is. So it's good to like find a deeper grounded reason because it can be a little chaotic when you're in the movement.
Mhm.
And then make some friends along the way because the friendships is legit and beautiful.
Yeah, and I'll just add one last thing: the venue. I went to other people's shows, and
Yeah.
then we either did promotional partnerships or, um, again, other things, but just really trying to develop a friendship or a friendship with folks. So venues are good, like just where you're at. And I think sometimes I was making this mistake of like outside of the space. I'm like, well, there's so much community here already.
Right. Yeah.
sorry, I'm just feverishly taking notes because sometimes I forget things and I get too excited. But you both touched on really great things, and it was so funny because I was gonna plug this later too, but at Hollywood Fringe, we have artist one-on-one sessions available where artists can schedule a 30-minute slot to talk with a member of staff, like me, and ask whatever Fringe questions you have. And I had a couple today, and they were talking about marketing at the festival, and I don't know where it came from. I think one of the shows is working with Laser, and he's a great producer of his work. And had a similar thing in 2023 TL that you and Kevin had where you would interview other artists, and it
Mhm.
was such a great way. I remember doing it and being a little nervous because I'd never really been interviewed for anything, and then I was like, oh my God, wait, this is also just a casual conversation with a friend that I'm getting to know over the course of this festival, whose work I can still go support and still enjoy seeing. Shout out to any laser productions that's happening right now. I recommend if you see them, Laser Vision, go check it out. um but it was a great way. It was cross promotion, it was exciting, it was those friendships. And then Christopher, you were talking about like these 10-minute slots, these 5-minute slots at different places that you can go check out. Fully take advantage of those. There's also a couple, there's a couple of those type things at Fringe as well. So I recommend looking at 2025's year and what programs we had for artists to engage in. What comes to mind is like Cabaret on the Road, things like we did things at Pride, we did things outside in the Hollywood Ovation courtyard, and you would get like a 5-minute slot to perform, and just taking advantage of those opportunities as well. That also like got people to get excited about your show, and then that's like again, it's Christopher, you're saying like not everyone came, but the people you made a connection with, they did come. There wasn't, and they had a blast, and like I for sure know that there were people who came to those events and were like, oh, I really liked the 5 minutes I saw. I want to see the rest.
That happened at my
And I know
scholarship
it's gonna.
cabaret. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yes, yes,
yeah.
yes.
People saw it and they're like, "Oh, okay, I have a sense of what this thing is. Great, I want to go."
Absolutely. So yeah, definitely those watching this either on YouTube after the fact or now, like after this, check out what our programs were in 2025, and more or less things will still exist. Nothing's going to go away, I don't think, but those programs just might meld a little bit differently, but see what was there so that you can know what to expect for this year. um I also wanted to shout out something that you both touched on, which was about like knowing what your show, well, I mean, knowing what your show's identity is, and what like communities it resonates with. I want to shout out Larissa's show, Canción de Nuestros Días, I believe if I have the title right. I remember Larissa was telling me this year in 2025, that she had reached out to some of the Salvadorian communities and populations here in Los Angeles, because there's a very big Salvadorian population here. And despite, the turmoil that happened, so it wasn't able to pan out, but there were some real connections happening there where they were excited to come see it. And whether or not they come see your show now doesn't mean they're not going to see your show later. And again, it's this thing that you're talking about, Christopher. It's Fringe is not the end all be all. It's the beginning of something that's really exciting. So that also is the thing with texting everyone. We all have to do it sometimes, and sometimes you get nervous and you're like, oh no, it's a lot of these texts that I'm sending. On the flip side, I haven't gotten over it completely, but what I realize a nice byproduct that happens is I'm like, oh my God, these people that I don't always text as much as I should, I then like break out into separate conversations and I get to catch up. And oh my God, the catching up is so much joy for me that like it's sometimes like, oh, forget about even the shows. Like I'm so glad I engaged in this like little moment of time where I could catch up and see how you were doing,
Mm.
regardless of coming to the show or not, because we all have just busy lives where so much happens. Um, One last thing that you guys were talking about too, because kind of going back for a second, the scholarship program is the only curated program here at the Fringe Festival. It's the only one that we form a deliberation committee. They reflect on what works you're presenting and they put a vote, you know? The rest of the festival is open access and we love that and it's fantastic. But this one is like, there's a curating body behind this program. And already that means something. And it's not, the end all be all of your marketing, but just know that some of the community is very excited because of your story and of you. People will get to meet you at office hours. They'll be very excited about your story, just as the committee members were. So just something to like keep in mind. Um, yeah. I have a question about impact. One of the other, I think the next question on the application is why is it important to you what the audience came away with from your productions? And maybe this is more of an artistic question just for your shows in general, TL and Christopher, but maybe I'll start with that. What was important that audiences took away from your shows? Yeah. Have a think about that, because yeah. And I'm gonna pick up my pen I dropped.
I mean, first draft thoughts, because I'm trying also not to like revisit my app and just try to think of like what I sort of like where I'm at now, like what did come out of it. Because I know I had intentions. I think right, because it's kind of the question of like what sort of well is it sort of like what some people took away or sort of what was the impact or is it what did I want the impact to be going in? Whichever. I mean, I could do both,
I,
but
I think both is pretty strong because I think one is the intention that you wanted, and then the second one was the actual impact that occurred. And sometimes they go hand in hand. But if there is a difference, because I know every production varies, I'd be thrilled to hear it.
I think for me, so I'm an Osabo kid, so shorthand is that like my Espanol is not that great, and so I just grew up not. I understand a lot of Spanish. Conjugating is very difficult for me. Both my parents speak very little English, and so I think going in, I wanted folks to sort of see somebody owning that phrase "no sabo" that can be very derogatory in my culture, and sort of being like, and I own it, and it's mine. And look, me and my dad can do a show kind of for X amount of minutes and we do and we fail and we succeed and multiple things happen but I kind of wanted I know that was an impact that I wanted of like hey fellow heritage speakers which is another term um we can still communicate with these parents who besides a language chasm there's also a cultural gap and we could still find a way to each other. Some other things that came up was sort of like somebody who wasn't Latino, Latina, Latina, Latinx, Hispanic in any kind of way was like, oh my God, I also have issues with my pops. And like to see you two even try to do something together was beautiful. And so that was sort of the thing that came after. I was like, oh, this is like people are taking something out of it even beyond the culture intention that I had, besides the identity aspect that I had, which was very helpful for me admittedly like if I put my producer hat on oh marketing wise that's something I can include in the language more about just parents in general I didn't take away anything about, hey, this is still the intention, but I just found a new thing to talk about. Me and my dad were estranged for a long time, so that's also sort of something that I'm just trying to play with my dad, and I didn't get a chance to do that growing up. And I think some people took something out of that. A lot. My dad would joke. He's just like, "Why is everyone crying at the end of the show? I thought this was a comedy." And I'm like, "I know, Dad. It's just you're. This is like you're the comedy. I'm the drama." And he's just like, "Yeah, you are dramatic." And I was like, "Great."
Wow. I want to see that show, Christopher.
Follow that, TL. No.
All right. How do I go after that? I mean, I don't know. Can I say that? I don't know. I don't know why I write these things. I'm crazy. I'm borderline crazy. I remember when I wrote it, I was like, oh God, I don't think I want to do this entire show in sign language, which my previous 11 years, all my shows were fully in sign. And I was like, if I don't do it in full ASL and I use my speaking voice, I'm gonna get attacked by my community. And then I went, oh, that's interesting. So I intentionally decided to speak the show and put it in the program and put that at the forefront of like those of us who don't even feel safe enough to code switch because our identity could be taken away. Um, and it was powerful. I think the feedback I got from people is that it stayed with them for days afterwards. I was surprised at the hearing culture's response because I kind of wrote it for a deaf culture and then they didn't come because I spoke the show. So my fear happened, but it was beautiful. A lot of hearing people said it pulled back the curtain in a world they didn't get to see inside of. So I felt very validating to be sort of that sacred bridge between the two worlds. It was very healing for me. And I think the impact is people who feel like they don't fit into boxes are like, oh, I relate to that. I relate to that. So um, I think it had the impact I wanted, which was to make people uncomfortable and to make people look inward and kind of crack people open in a certain way.
Mm. Tia, also, I just want to. It's something that I'm hearing.
Mm.
That I learned along the way of like, oh, unintentional things are okay.
Yes.
And I had trouble with that at first, and then by the end, I was like, oh, I'm glad this thing I didn't plan for that I might have written in the application, this other thing came up, and as opposed to like, wait, but this was the plan, and there's supposed to be a plan. So
Yeah. Yeah. You make a plan, God laughs, It's like the show is like a living, breathing document. It just sort of moves. Like I didn't even have original music in my first round of it. And then I turned to my director and said, I have a whole rock album that talks, and she's like, what? So we integrated that in. But that wasn't until 6 shows in that I was like, oh, okay. So it's a process, I think, for a lot of people, and
something you just said was, again, I'm trying to be mindful of time here. I wanted a large Latina, Latinx community, and a couple of them did, but I also was like, oh, I have way more other folks showing up, and I guess it's okay. I'm in the future with y'all. It was very okay, but at the time, I was like, wait, but I wanted this demographic. So sort of what you're saying just reminded me of that feeling I completely forgot about. I remember feeling very disenchanted and disappointed. But it turned out for the best. But in the moment, I was like, oof, I guess we're not showing up for each other. And what does that mean? And
yeah.
I had some very helpful people talk me through that, which I think is helpful for folks to have, who's someone you can have that you can talk with when certain expectations are met.
Yeah.
Um, Thank you both. It's just very exciting. This because we have programs that talk about producing and there's creativity there as well. But the scholarship application itself, there is so much creativity already imbued in it. So just hearing you both speak about this and your journey, like amidst that time when you were producing, is always so exciting. So there was a couple things that bounced off and that I was like, oh, let me catch it before it goes away. But before I get into that, Christopher, you keep saying I want to be mindful of time. You're so good. Every time
You
I'm
saw
sorry,
my show, Roddy.
I saw
It's
no,
all
listen,
about.
listen, listen. Here's why you're fine, because I have seen your show and I know how it runs. But I tend to run really fast with my panels. Like we're always done, and I'm like, oh, we have 20, 30 minutes left. Oh my.
I need to trust you. You're
But
right.
we balance, you and I are balancing each other out, so don't even worry about it. And TL, you're doing great. You are the perfect center. Um, But some of the things I caught while you guys were discussing that question, and something that I think is why this question is a little tricky or easily to trip on, is that when we're talking about the impact or the intention of the show, um, you know, the application's designed to be received and given by people from underrepresented groups who traditionally don't or haven't had access to the stage and to be seen on a stage. And
Right.
I think that there's something that happens there where, as a person from an underrepresented background, you kind of just take your mode of operation as granted. TL, you were kind of talking about this code switching, and I was just thinking about it like, oh yeah, prior to kind of having the language or the reflection time to know that, I just took it all for granted. And so I was like, well, my intent is just to create a show. And then I was like, well, what is your show about, Roddy, and why are you doing this? And it, you do have to sit with yourself for a little bit when creating a new piece, or who you want to see in that audience, and who you might not expect to see in that audience, and see what's happening there. And it does, it's not a 30-second solve. It's kind of a, oh, I'm gonna have to think about what this impact could have and what I really want to see happen. But there's a moment of like, well, that's just how I operate all the time. It's kind of this thing where I'll talk to directors sometimes and they're like, oh, I don't have a directorial vision. And then I'm like, okay, great. Well, you sit down for 5 minutes. I will give you a pitch on a show, and you give me a pitch on the same show. And as you know, that 5 minutes is over, I start pitching them on the same show, and they're like, no, you can't do it that way. You have to do it this and this way. And I was like, oh, why? And you do have a directorial vision. You do have an intention. You just sometimes people aren't sometimes aware of what they're doing all the time, and that's totally fine. Like, this crazy world doesn't always give you time to be aware of what you're doing. It's just such a go, 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 where it's like, take that moment to think, take that moment to reflect, because it will be more aware. And yeah, I think that, like, I don't know, there's something beautiful about also just the intention can be as grand as it can be, but it's also, Christopher, I just thought it was so touching. You're like, I just wanted a moment to play with my dad. And I think that that's also absolutely just as valid as someone trying to do something that we all perceive as a big thing too. Like, they both of these are so valid, and the audiences that want to see them will be so grateful they got to. And it's a moment of catharsis for, honestly, like, a community in being invited to a theater that doesn't get to feel that all the time. You know, whether it's a Latinx audience, whether it's a deaf community that traditionally hasn't always been welcomed into this theater spaces. Like, there's just so much that we take for granted sometimes. We're like, no, I want to show this, and I want to show my mom and dad. But it's like, oh, right, they haven't always been felt welcomed in the theater, you know? And it's like, that's also chipping away, and that's also
Mhm.
making an impact. I literally today I sent my I sent my mom and dad away being like, I got you tickets to the Pantages. Go see it. Now, to be fair, that's the Pantages. I'm like, but I also get them to go see fringe shows. And that, more often than not, has such a bigger impact, because they're like, oh, okay, wait, side thing. And TL, I will recommend you see Christopher's show, because I saw Christopher's show, and then I took my dad to see Christopher's show.
Mm.
And little peel back of the curtain. Christopher, it's a father-son
Oh
show.
my,
My
that's right.
father,
Our dad's had. Yeah, go go go.
yeah. So it was, a lot was going on. It was in Spanish. It was exciting. It was great. But my father had also recently lost his father, my grandfather, not too long ago,
Wow.
and there was this connection. And oh my God, to see him connecting with the theater, the work, and like, whether that was the intention, it happened, and it was gorgeous. It was beautiful. And then shortly thereafter, your dad, Christopher, being the way he is, he was like, yeah, I just performed on stage. It was fine. Like, why is everyone crying? And my dad and I are trying to keep it together, being like, oh, hi, it's really nice to meet you. That was really good. Your son's really cool. And we're like crying.
My dad kept coming up to me. He's like, "This man is crying in front of me. Is he okay?" And I was like, my dad's like, "Listen, I'm here for a paycheck." But yeah, that was a beautiful moment. And in all sincerity, my dad has actually referenced that moment because we've toured it a little bit, and my dad references that moment a lot. The moment that my dad had with your dad.
Well, it's
it's
so beautiful, right? Because like, here we are trying to name the impact, but you can't document that. When you create something like this and you're following the thread of what it's supposed to be, which is going from one person to a two person and trusting it and bringing your dad in who sounds like he broke the fourth wall all the time. I was like, what am I
yeah,
that, but see, there's impact that happened there that we don't know about, which is just the beauty of theater in itself, right? We could do a whole discourse on that, but
right.
the application will ask for the applicants to intentionally try to pull a through line of like what impact are you bringing, because we are presenting these opportunities to people who represent a diverse community. So we want some intentionality of like what is your intention to bring to it as well, right?
Yeah,
Mm.
I would second that.
Yeah, it's like both things.
No,
Right, right.
absolutely.
And often the intention will lead to the other things, right? You have a really pure intention and all that other stuff just shows up. It's
Yeah,
beautiful.
yeah.
I think we're actually to my final question before we switch gears to talking about being deliberation or about you two being deliberation committee members. The question is the last one that we have on the other than there's a last question in the application that says like, is there anything else you want the application to know? Just a side thing. Always take that to the full advantage. Like if you've given the opportunity, talk more, send links. It's super helpful. But right before that question is the what do you hope to gain from the scholarship program and your Hollywood Fringe experience? Um, Christopher, I'm really curious because you have your application right in front of you. Um, and I believe that question existed in 2025. I'm
Oh,
curious what you wrote down, and then NTL, just to kind of give you an idea of what questions coming your way. It's what did you hope to gain, and then what did you gain? Did those line up? I mean, we've kind of been reflecting on the experience the whole time, but I'm really curious if we can just take a little bit more time to talk about this idea of what did you hope to gain from the scholarship, and then what did you gain, um,
Mm.
whether immediately thereafter or just down the line. Yeah. Christopher, I don't know if you're maybe the question didn't exist.
I'm looking. I see a question about impact and what's the message to convey. I see a question about description. I actually might have not have asked the question one more time.
Yeah. I think the question is, what do you hope to gain from the scholarship program? And that might have been a new question now that I'm thinking about it. Because if it wasn't in the 2025, we must have put it in the 2026. Sorry, you were 2024. We must have put it in the 2025 application and didn't have it, which goes to show that the application's always changing.
Mhm.
So, TL, I mean, if you want to take it away, what did you hope to gain from the scholarship program? And then what did you gain?
Hmm. Good one. I think initially the scholarship was just like, oh, it's a way to it's like, it's a little financial, a little emotional support. It also gives a little clout, like, hey, I won a scholarship, It was a little bit of that, a little like, buff the ego or something. I don't know. So I went in with that. It also lets name that people who are on the scholarship do get a little bit of boost in terms of promotion, right? They get the mentor to support. There's like, here's the list of the scholarship shows. So it sort of gets backing from the Fringe. So people kind of go, oh, somebody's decided that was worthy of a scholarship. Maybe I should put them, in the front of the shows that I might go see. So there is a certain kind of like elevation that can come with that. And so I was happy to have all of that, especially as a marginalized population where you're always kind of struggling to be seen. And it felt super good to be back and supported by the Fringe in that way. What I actually got from it was, oh my God, I have to get up on the stage to a cabaret. Which even during that year we didn't have it. It was like we had to do a video. There was a little extra homework for it, and I was like, oh, but it was great. It made me like show up a little bit more. And it put me with a group of other people who were diverse and had interesting shows. I felt like I had like my own little cohort of scholarship people that we were all on the same journey together. That felt really lovely. But I would say it taught me to appreciate being able to receive support and how important, which is why I went on to say I want to keep, being here today and having this conversation is that it's not a small thing to give support to marginalized voices in a certain way. Like that's just important. Yeah.
I love that too.
I felt empowered by it, It really did help me a lot. And I've seen, last year, people who were on the scholarship committee were people who had won the scholarship the previous year. So there is this sort of like pay it forward thing because it does feel so good, right?
Yeah, that's a big spirit that I have with Fringe. Paying it forward, it did so much for me.
Yeah.
TL, you definitely stole a lot of my answers. Like it is the confidence boost, it is the conversation starter. Um, it is curated, is I think the reason I went for the scholarship was like, well, if I get it, then this is very much my way of thinking. I don't think other people need to do this, but if I get it, then it's meant to be. And so when I got it, I was like, okay, well, I have this stipend, the registration's taken care of. Okay, I was worried about funding.
Mhm.
These people, I mean, now that I've been in it, I saw that a bunch of people got together and they talked about my show. And they were like, hey, this is worth giving some funding. Funding, as we all know, is incredibly limited. And so for Fringe, for a group of people to be like, yeah, this is worthy of getting some support, meant a lot. And it was a conversation starter when I would talk with folks. Um, I think for me to say something sort of different, I would add in my scholarship cohort became a bit of a family. We met up on Zoom every so often. We did dinners. We would literally meet up to like vent what's stressing us out. Oh my gosh, this, my flyer. Hey, great. Let me offer you this support. And so that was another thing. We were problem solving while also just making space. I don't think every cohort needs to do that, but just organically that kind of happened for us. I would add in community. Community was a big one. I have community thereafter. Um, and I think lastly, I would say what I got out of it, what I wanted to get in was just community. I wanted to have a reason to stay in LA as a new person. And I say this all the time, LA has been very kind to me, and Hollywood Fringe is a big part of that. I would say what it does for me now, this is a town full of people that do similar things. It is the one thing that is usually my go-to when people are like, are you an actor? Are you a writer? I'm like, well, I did a show with my dad. And people are like, wait, what does that mean? And so having that, having the awards I got, and I'm looking at a poster of my show now and the laurels and the scholarship, I'm like, well, it helps me stand out. So Fringe even today has helped me to stand out in a place that can be a little oversaturated. I mean, it's a town full of creatives, which is amazing, but at the same time, I'm like, okay, well, this makes me stand out. And so I still use that to this day. And I'm hoping to bring dad back. And they're like, I want to see that. And I'm like, great.
Right.
Dad will eventually come back.
Yeah, I will add to that. I was able to use that I won the scholarship to promote and kind of get seats because I was still doing my show. So we would say at the talkback, my director would go, "Oh, and she just got a scholarship at the Hollywood Fringe amongst all these applicants." So people are like, "Oh," it's a great promotional tool to keep it moving forward and getting people to come to see your show, in addition to all the things that Chris already said as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Christopher, I love that you have a poster in your room of your show.
Of course I
Um,
did.
and I gotta say, it's because I also have I'm in my living room kitchen right now, but I also have a poster of my show in my room. Because I mean it's a spot of pride. And yeah, oh my God.
I only have it because my dad signed it.
Oh, I
Oh,
love
that's
that.
awesome. And I will also add, or just like second or third, the um the community, because when I was applying, and again, somewhat fresh out of college, I knew I loved producing, but I also knew of how hard it could be to produce and how risky more or less it is to bet on yourself in an environment that is just large, it's LA. And I really got to meet a lot of amazing people and creatives who were self-producing their work and still self-produce their work. And it's like it's been a complete game changer to go to now like support my friends who are always self-producing work and doing it in a variety of ways, and it's always so exciting. But like I didn't have that community there before,
Mm.
where I was like I was very much, because I had been producing beforehand, in LA, in Hollywood, but I had just been flying solo. And now to even know, like, okay, if I have questions, I can go ask other people, or I can just let them know what's going on, and they understand the hecticness that is self-producing. And just the relatability of that, to relate to someone on that level, meant a lot and still means a lot to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you both for those answers. They're incredible. And yeah, I'm glad you brought it up, Christopher, about the cohort. Each year is very different, but your year very much was very close with each other. And yeah, the photos of you guys all having dinner when you would email that to the staff was very sweet. And you kind of touched on it now about this pay it forward, and it's kind of the perfect segue into the next portion of these questions, because a little bit about what is or who is the scholarship deliberation committee, the people reading your applications. So, spoiler, Christopher and TL are part of that committee. um, so be very
And
nice.
many others, and many others.
But and many others, and it is comprised of previous scholarship winners, including I mean, these two don't know this because I don't CC everybody before it's all confirmed, but like it is some of 2025's cohort will be
Right.
joining in,
Okay.
and they're so excited and thrilled, and it is going to be great. I'm really thrilled for this group that's just grown and really wants to get into these applications. It also is a mix of working theater professionals. I mean, the previous scholarship participants are that, but also it also extends to people in the theater landscape of LA who are commonly producing work or are associated with other companies around Los Angeles who understand the fringe format and the fringe environment. So that will give you an inkling of like what's the makeup of the applications and who's, or sorry, the deliberation committee members and who that is. I think I'm actually going to skip my first question and go to the second because I think the first one is explained in some other questions. Um, so my first question is when you do read an application and you're getting oh, I misread it. How do you read an application and get a sense of readiness to produce at a festival level? Whether that be the Hollywood Fringe Festival or just in a festival environment. So, when you read it, how are you like, oh, I think the applicant is ready. Here are the green flags. Honestly, it's what are the green flags that you can see when when you're reading an application?
Hmm.
I think my first draft thought, just to get the ball rolling, somebody who's really specific. I think when I hear someone coming more from a platform as opposed to a story, I can get a little zoned out. And I guess just what that means is sort of like I think some people can be like, well, um, I think I remember last year this. I can't remember the applicant, but they were like, "Here's the scene. It opens this," and it was just so specific, and I could see the story, and I could see where it is on stage. And they were still working out the script, but I was like, "Oh wow, you have a sense of what theatricality is going to look like here." Like they had a sense of something concrete as opposed to like I am tackling these following platforms and messages, which I think is very important. It just felt a little, some of the applications last year were so abstract for me and just my brain. I need something more concrete. So I think as concrete as you can get, specific is helpful for me as somebody on the committee. A lot of people had different, like Roddy, you were just saying, people were coming from different angles. But that's just a first draft thought. TL, if I'm sure you had a different approach or maybe, yeah.
Yeah, I was fortunate to read a lot of the disabled artists last year. I think they were all handed to me, so that was such a beautiful gift. Um, it's kind of like when you see a show, you're just like, oh, that really nailed it. There's a feeling quality that's really kind of hard to articulate, but there's a certain, as Christopher said, specificity and clarity around their voice. Again, it doesn't look like it was written generically. Sometimes when they're written generically or quickly, it's that you find them repeating the same thing in all the questions, the same line of like, right? Like, I know you're BIPOC, I know you represent, but what else do we want to know? So I'm looking for something that says that you have a clear articulation and handle on who you are as an artist and what your voice is through your art. Sometimes it looks like people will say, like, when we ask about marketing, they'll be like, well, I'll post on my Facebook and Instagram. It's like, well, everyone's going to do that. Like, and if someone comes in and says, I've already have a GoFundMe page and I have my whole theater team and my family from Wisconsin are going to come down and flyer the streets. Like, if there's other alternative ways that are showing up there, it shows me that they're willing to back their art in thinking outside of the box. I go, oh, these people are already they're already ahead of it.
I remember in the committee too, we had a lot of grace for folks that were like, I'm still figuring it out or
That's
I can't
right.
articulate it. But I think the fact that people were vulnerable and honest about that in their applications was a green flag for me. And I was like, oh wow, okay.
Yeah.
They realize that a fringe can be a lab and it can be a place to try something out and build something.
Yeah.
Uh, and so I think the sense of self was important for me to see in the application. I totally agree, Tail. I think too often I saw people like, okay, like you're sort of saying the same things in
Each
application
question.
responses. Yeah,
Yeah, I would say look at the application as a whole and make sure you're making some diversify your points a little bit would be good.
yeah,
And it is a process. Like one of the shows I really loved, Peacock and a Rubble, they had submitted and it was literally their house burned down. They started writing a show about the Altadena fires and losing my home. And I remember reading that and going, oh my goodness. And there wasn't too much more there. But I could feel the vibration and the vulnerability of that, and it stuck with me throughout the whole fringe, you know. So I would say authenticity is another one, right?
yeah,
That's just as important as coming up with clever marketing ideas. Like
yeah,
just be you. And I think you mentioned that question of like, what else do you want us to know? That's always like the thing that they say at the interview. What else? Do you have any questions for us? And you're like, oh my God, what do I say? I better get this right. But I think it's a place to be like, you could go one layer deeper or vulnerable because like for instance, my application, okay, people know I'm a member of the deaf community. Okay, this, that's already covered. But what else do we don't know that's in this application? So like for me, I think I said something like, I'm going to be speaking my show for the first time and my community might have a challenge with that, but I'm leaning into the controversy of that and I'm putting it into my art. So like I'm going to use my speaking voice for the first time in 11 years. Like I kind of did that as like, this is something I'm doing that's different, you know? So if people are willing to put their hearts out there a little bit on the line and tell us why it matters. And, from the Hollywood Fringe, I took that and I put it in all my other applications and I have a section of why I'm telling the story and why it matters right now. And I think a lot of the times I've gotten into festivals because I'm letting people know my why underneath the show.
yeah. Wanting a why is so important. I'm looking at my response to that question, and I realized I just used it as an opportunity to like do my resume. I was like, I also do these things. I was like, what am I doing?
And I worked on the street as a mime, a shadow mime when I was 12.
It kind of has that vibe. Like I put like a different website. I mean, whatever.
It's, and that's great. Look, you still got it, right? Like,
Right. That was probably the one they were like, this is actually now I'm hesitating.
Yeah.
Everything was going so well. I'm making that up, but
No, I'll actually say because like and we've experienced this in the rooms. I'll also let me clarify. I say we've been in the rooms and we are in the rooms, but the staff here at Hollywood Fringe, we're not deciding who gets the scholarship.
okay,
There's full trust in the deliberation committee, and we simply facilitate and inform in that room, but we're not like we're making the choices, you know? So just keep that in mind. We always want to remind everyone that because
yeah,
sometimes scholarship applicants who have received the award will come up to us and be like, "Thank you so much for the award." And I'm like, "Well, I mean, we facilitated it, yes, and that's so kind, but we did not select them. Although we love all of the applications and the scholarship program very dearly.
yeah.
Um,
Can I throw
but
in one thing too?
oh
Also,
yes, please,
talk
yeah,
about authenticity. Also,
yeah, yeah,
honesty. We want honesty in representation is something that needs to be named. I mean, all of us have been many of us, not all of us, have been previous recipients of the scholarship, but we're diverse individuals, and so we do our due diligence. So if you say you're neurodivergent or, you have a diverse identification, you know, we're gonna kind of like make sure that that's true. We want to like look out there and go, oh, is this person really,
yeah,
that's as well,
that did come up. Yeah.
yeah, we take that seriously. We want to, make sure that we're allotting it to people who really need it, in that regard.
absolutely. And I mean, going back a little bit, but all about what we've been talking about. Sometimes there's this pressure when you receive an application that there is some form that you need to present yourself, whether that be in a hyper formal manner. And again, we've been talking about this authenticity and honesty. I mean, what I can't speak for any other application, but truly for this application, that is what reigns supreme. It's the authenticity and the honesty of it,
Yeah.
rather than needing to assert yourself in a certain position. Just come in within the application as you are, and it
Yes.
does speak volumes. I will mention that for the first time now, applications can be submitted in Spanish. There's a Spanish
Mm.
version of the application now. I will also say that if you need further accommodations for the application, feel free to always email support@hollywoodfringe.org. Because again, I know how there can be some barriers, or that we can sometimes feel within our heads like we aren't able to do it, to some presumed barrier, and truly the deliberation committee, they always go back to authenticity and honesty. And also, Christopher, with this thing, I will say most of the scholarship deliberation committee members are always like, give me more, give me more, give me anything you can give me. And sometimes it is those links. Sometimes
Yes.
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
like evidence of prior work is still an accomplishment and should not ever be dismissed. And it's still like, it might not be inherently relevant, but because this application is such a creative and producing thing, it's like, no, you have done things and you've done them in a way that you're very proud of. Like, share all of that. I
Yeah.
remember for mine, I also included links to like a website that I had been working on that had like a portfolio, but also a show I did in 2019 that was nothing like the show I was submitting for, but I was like, here's proof that I have done a show previously and like this format. It's not creatively similar, but it is just like the simply the idea that I produce something, and here's evidence of that thing. And so always, if you feel that you have something that even you feel is somewhat relevant, include that link. More than not, the deliberation committee is very excited to
Yeah.
investigate what you're providing.
Yeah, it was helpful just to get to know people. I
Right.
think you didn't ask this, but such a red flag was the short applicants, like the ones that were just like bare bones in regards to links or responses. And I think we would be like, yeah, I don't know who this person is.
Right.
And
Yeah. And
so
even to get it off the written page and give us like, oh, there's the face. This is them moving in space. This is their energetics. This is their Instagram and their color palette. Anything that will
we would see them. Yeah. I mean,
describe them, who they are is really
to,
important.
to TL's point, I'm like, who is this person? So like I would encourage folks in your responses, like tell me who you are. Not so much just tell me about your show, but tell me who
Right.
you are. It's not an easy ask, but try.
Right. And something else that didn't come up, it might be worth mentioning, certainly because we are considering PWDAs, person with disabilities. Not everybody is out about their disability, but they have the right to do that or not do that on their application. So we try to hold that with a certain uh, tenderness as well. Like, well, where are people at? Because some people say, I'm a little bit this and I'm still in a process of, right? And so just be authentic with where you're at with that. You don't have to be any more or any less. It's like, it's such a personal journey. Uh, that's something to name as well. I noticed like because like last year somebody said to me, why are there so few disability artists in the festival? Like, and I was like, I read 19 applications and that of people who are in the festival that I can name. And and a lot of times it was people with non-apparent disabilities. Right. So, and those people don't always live as openly as someone like me that talks about it. So they're in a process with it. But we wanna hear from those people as well, and for people to feel comfortable to share with where they're at.
Absolutely. And oh, Christopher, you're kind of touching on it, which is the next question that's coming in, and we have slightly been touching on it as well. You said red flags. I thought red flags was kind of too much, so I said, what are the do not do's on the application?
Yeah.
But that is the next question. And if anything else has popped up, you're like, oh, I remember. I was like, oh, I would stay away from X, Y, and Z, But are there any inherent do not do's for you when reviewing an application? And we've kind of talked about like not writing enough is pretty high on that list, or not providing your full self is also pretty high on that list. Is there anything else for you two that comes to mind?
TL kind of mentioned this, and I think we don't really need to spend a lot of time on it, but I think some people see what's being asked, like, oh, what's your identity? And I think some people kind of were really reaching, and it's like if you just don't qualify for the scholarship, then just don't apply. Um, that's as short as I can put it.
Yeah.
I think that kind of explains itself. The amount of deliberation that I was like, I'll be very frank, I was like this is I wish we were spending this much more time on other things.
It takes a while to go through them. I appreciate that. So yeah, I think that's what we were talking about, the level of integrity and honesty. Um,
And I
yeah,
think some people are like, and just to contextualize even more,
Brilliant.
it's like, well, my producer identifies as such and such. And I'm like, yeah, or a co-producer or like somebody else on the team. I'm like,
like
well, like you're the storyteller, you're the person on stage, presumably,
right.
or this is sort of your directorial piece. And so like you're telling a story for somebody else. And so then that would be something we would talk about. And it's like, well, like this is not the same thing, but like it's funny. The application made me think like, okay, yeah, I don't want to just tell. Who am I to tell just the story of me and my dad? My dad should be here. And so I would give him the mic and be like, hey, dad, tell a story,
Right.
whatever you want. That's not exactly the same thing, but I do remember us having those conversations. And so like I just highly encourage folks like if it's your place, your identity, if you're trying to tell a story from a marginalized place, then like be from that place in that way. I think we did kind of. I'm repeating myself, but I remember that being a thing. That is a do not do for me.
Yeah, that came up a bit. Like we weren't sure about the person, but their team seemed like, or this person, and then there was just this sort of vagueness.
Yeah,
So, and we look at that carefully.
right.
So I would
Yeah.
just authenticity. You want to make sure that you're authentic for
Tia,
sure.
I'm sure you have another do not do. That was
Another do not do. I mean, I would not write my entire application with ChatGPT. I would like put some thought into it. I would not repeat the same answers across the board. I would not avoid giving us links to even like social media or some video. I don't care if it's like, here I am at grandma's wedding. Like, I want to see who you are and feel a little bit of your energetics. Help us to really feel you so we can make the right decisions,
No, absolutely. Yeah, thank you both. I have two more questions, but they're kind of like little ribbon or tie it up into a bow. And I actually, which is great, I said on my little template that we would go to the audience questions at 8:30. And wouldn't you know it, it is 8:30, so this is perfect. But yeah, for everyone that's currently in with us at the Zoom or potentially on the YouTube Live using the chat functions, if you have any questions, please feel free to type it in the chat or unmute yourself and introduce yourself with your name. If you know what your show is right now, or what the title is, we'd love to hear it. But yeah, I'm sure that there are other questions that I haven't addressed here that our panelists could absolutely ask or answer. Sorry.
Yeah.
And then I'll save these two questions I have for a little bit later, if there are questions. But yeah, yeah, pardon me.
Are folks asking questions in the chat or are they unmuting themselves? Or okay, Alan's
Yeah, either or. So you can like
Okay.
raise your hand and type in the chat.
Yeah.
Either one works. I'm just leaving some space for that to happen. Um, and if we don't have any questions at the moment, which is totally fine. I have two questions for the two of you as well that yeah, that I thought were really cute and really fun. And yes.
I want heavy and not fun.
No. I had to rewrite the whole thing now.
Listen, I'm a sad boy sad, so give me all the heaviness.
Let me see.
Hmm.
No, sorry, Christopher. I don't have anything for you.
Oh shucks.
Not yeah. But while people are writing, if they are writing something for a question, oh, I will also shout out if you don't have a question right now, but you like have one in 2 weeks' time,
Oh, it looks
don't
like
worry
there's a
about it.
scholarship. There's a question there about if you
Oh,
do you look at budget levels for the scholarship? Is one of the questions.
um, good question. I will take a crack at this actually from the administrative side. So we do detail out the stipend right now for this year. The stipend is $1,000 for a minimum of four shows during the month of June, um, with ideally one of them being for during previews. But It is not the total cost of the production. It's like a little boost to help. Obviously, you know, things have gotten more expensive, and just as they naturally do. Um, so I don't really think that budget has ever been a question that has entered the room. And often, or sometimes it's the creative ways people work with limited budget that's been addressed. And Christopher and Tia, I'd love to hear how you've interpreted this question too. Um, yes. While you answer that first question of do budget levels come into play to the scholarship, I'm going to look up the second question and make sure I know what I'm going to say before I say it.
I
I
mean, I think what they're asking is like, do you consider whether we're high budget or low budget in terms of giving us a scholarship? And I don't even care what your budget is. I care about the quality of your show and your ownership of it. And you are saying, here I am, and I'm telling the story. You could do, I've seen brilliant stuff on a shoestring budget. We had somebody do their show in their house, right? Like, so that isn't even a consideration. We're backing you as an artist in your story, and how you tell that story with your budget is between you and God and in your pocketbook and Bank of America or whoever you deal with. So that's my take on that. What do you think?
I think, I mean, I'm kind of on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
Maybe it was brought up, but by no means, I don't think it was like we were wondering if people were thinking about a budget, but I don't think it occupied much deliberation time. So yeah, I think that's my answer to that one.
Yeah.
No, thank you. I'm also gonna, I just found it. I'm going to link a article that we wrote last year. We will be coming out with a new article this year where basically we asked the previous scholarship artists, whether scholarship or not, their budgets. And we anonymize everything and they let us know what their budget breakdowns were for everything. Because I also understand as you're applying for the scholarship and it does not cover everything, sometimes you have those questions of like, well, okay, realistically, if I got the scholarship, how would I be able to make this happen? And what are the budget constraints? I'm going to link to that right now. I'm just going to drop it in the chat. This is from 2025, meaning we're pulling from 2024 artists. This year, we'll be pulling from 2025 artists. That will be coming out probably in late January. Or not early. Yeah, I'll say late January. Um, I will jump into the chat ones and then I will get to TJ's question momentarily. And I may need Ellen's help on this because I couldn't find it and maybe there isn't one. But how long can the show be? Um, is there a minimum? Is there a maximum? I know Fringe has a common ground, like the average show lasts about an hour, and some shows will hit 90 minutes. It depends from venue to venue, but Ellen, if I could quickly throw to you for this answer.
Totally. We don't have any rules. We've had scholarship shows that have been 15 minutes long, 20 minutes long, all the way up to 90 minutes. I will say that the committee would be like pretty hesitant to do something that is longer than 90 minutes. And I personally would not recommend for, if you've never done Fringe before, to do anything more than 60 minutes because really you're doing a preview of your show. You're trying to have an expanded version of it later. It'll be cheaper for you. It'll be easier to get audiences if you do 60 minutes. And so please, I beg you,
Yeah,
it's not just advice for no like for control's sake. It's actually like such an important part of the model for your show to be 60 minutes or under. And we love under, especially if your work works well with that.
Yeah.
absolutely. And that's also another thing that you negotiate with your venue for the budgetary constraints. It's like, oh, the cost of a 60-minute show will vary from the cost of a 90-minute show and other things to consider when you're applying. I'm looking at this question here of when is the application due? We opened yesterday, December 15th. We will be closing January 15th. That is the timeline of the window. January 15th at midnight. Yes. And then I do see that there's some follow-ups here about like, oh, production team, marketing, and costs expected aside from marketing materials. I will say we did talk about some of these things. It's totally fine if you came a little late. Don't worry. This whole Zoom panel conversation will be uploaded to YouTube as well. I'll also shout out that you can schedule an artist one-on-one with me if you have some more individual questions about your specific show. You can also email support at hollywoodfringe.org. And then just to briefly mention it, yeah, um, feel free to yes, we've discussed here, teams can be large, they can be small, as long as you come in with the correct intention and knowing what your production size will be. Also, we do help to some extent with marketing. Like you are in our program, our the festival packet program. Ellen, what is it called again? The festival guide. Thank you. It is a guide of last year's over 400 shows. It's a big thing. We print out a ton of them. They go out everywhere to various venues and local hotspots around Hollywood. And they, as a scholarship recipient, your listing, your is right there in the front. Like we drop your name, we say, or the show name, and we drop it there. But I will say that don't rely on Hollywood Fringe for the sole bulk of your marketing. It really is a self-produced festival, which does include the marketing as being self-produced. And then, yes, Ellen, I believe, just dropped the budget article to give you an idea of what some budgets from the previous years look like. And it's definitely helpful to look at it. You'll be paying for your venue. You can make the decision if you're paying stipends for your collaborators and casts. I understand that things are financially difficult and hard to pull off. So there's a lot of different things to take into account. Sorry, TL and Christopher. For me talking for a bunch. We're gonna turn over to TJ and then you guys will hop in on this. I hope. But yeah, TJ, what's your question?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Great. I'm TJ. My pronouns are he, him, or they, them. I'm wearing blue headphones and a frog and toad sweater. Uh, and my question is, I've heard mention of these office hours, and I was wondering, is that just a thing that the team provides, or do you as a scholarship recipient also participate in that? Forgive me if this is a normal fringe thing. I'm completely new to it.
It's a good
No,
question.
you're so good. Yeah, please, Christopher, TL, if you want to talk a little bit about what office hours is, and I can for sure fill in any gaps, but as people
Yeah.
who are regularly in these spaces, please tell me a little bit about office hours.
Yeah, I think they've already started. I would definitely highly recommend getting on the newsletter, follow the Instagram for sure for Hollywood, but they're weekly meetups. I think before, I shouldn't say they're weekly. Before Fringe starts, my understanding is that they're sort of spread out. It's a great way to meet some folks. I know people who've met, like, I met my director. Essentially, they're meetups to get to know who else is in the fringe. It's very much a networking thing. If it's difficult to sort of be at social capacity, it can be a little exhausting. I highly recommend bringing a buddy in those cases. Some of those buddies can be great at being the conversation starter or just the person to just kind of be there as you're chit chatting. It's a great opportunity to hand flyers, meet some other people. Like I mentioned, I know somebody who met the director to their eventual show there. I think when the festival kicks off, then it becomes regular every week. It can be a bit packed. I think this year they're keeping that in mind. So it'll be easier to hear one another, talk with one another. Those are my first draft thoughts on it. I highly recommend it. I also will say, and it's okay if you miss them. I wouldn't say miss all of them, but like I knew people who were like there I think it was Wednesday when I did it, and they were like, and I was like, it's okay to miss one. Yeah, there can be an implicit sort of be here all the time. It's like I just want to go home.
TL, do you want to add anything to office hours? I have a couple things too.
Yeah, the office hours aren't exclusive to scholarship people. It's available to everyone at the Fringe to go. It's just an opportunity to be in community and to really network, just to be in a group of people who are doing the same ride that you're doing, which is like putting a show out, the vulnerability of it, the excitement of it, exchange flyers. You come to my show, I come to your show. You start to cross-populate. It's just exciting, but it's also promotional, and I highly recommend you do it. I highly recommend it. The more visible and the more out you can be to connect with other people, the more pleasurable it is, and the more likelihood you'll have some success.
Definitely have something tangible, also like a flyer or something. The amount of time I kept forgetting my business cards. I had cards. I didn't use a pull-out flyer, but I had like a little card that had a QR code and
Right.
people could get info. But yeah, definitely have something to hand people.
Yeah.
I appreciated the message in the chat about being like overwhelmed in packed bar spaces, because part of my show is actually that I'm chronically ill. I mean, it's also about gender and misogyny. Just to elevator pitch it, it's sort of a split between a dating advice columnist, like think Carrie, Sex and the City, think like early 2000s Teen Vogue and Cosmo, and then somebody who is like me, so genderqueer, Filipino and Dominican, and very much not straight, and the tension between the idea of romance for straight white women and the inability to perform that no matter how hard you try. So having accessible options is really, really cool, and I super appreciate it. And I hope to see y'all in the future. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
I want to go to that show.
Right.
Fantastic.
Sincerely.
I'll also fill in a little bit of the gaps because you both did a tremendous job. But there are some new things as well. So yes, Office Hours is currently in its off-season sessions, which means we meet up once a month. But then I believe towards the end of March, it then goes to once a week on Wednesdays at a bar in Hollywood. But again, and as you'll see, for all of you who please, I mean, whether scholarship or not, enjoy and hop into the Hollywood Fringe experience. There's a feedback session at the end of the whole experience, and the staff absolutely listens. We're right there. We're taking notes. And one of the things was like finding more accessible spaces to hang out and to be in community that isn't necessarily around alcohol or in a bar setting that sometimes very frankly gets very crowded, as these on-season office hours will tend to get. And we have 4 other opportunities actually. And Christopher Teal, I don't think you guys know about this, which is cool. There are, and it's in the Ellen's already dropped in the chat. Oh yeah, Ellen, you've already dropped in the chat. I'm just saying what you wrote down. This is great. We have 2 meetups at the Plummer Park in Hollywood, and we're also gonna have 2 meetups at the Hollywood Reservoir, where we just walk around and just chat and answer questions. I think those are happening on alternating Saturdays and Sundays, like 4 times throughout leading up to the festival, is what it is. And Ellen's dropped all that great stuff in the chat. But we're really excited about that because the Hollywood Reservoir is really pretty to walk around. So yeah. Anything else I wanted to add about that? No, that's it. Yeah. Well, brilliant. I think if you still have questions, ooh, is there a question? No, this is it. I was kind of excited if there was a question. It was just Ellen typing in the chat, which is very exciting in its own right. If there are any questions, we'll pivot and address them. But I do have 2 more for you, Christopher and TL, which is one is what would you say to applicants who are unsure of applying, who may be dealing with cold feet? I think there's sometimes a pressure to like, oh, do I really want to do this? Am I going to commit? What advice would you give to those applicants who may be dealing with cold feet? And the advice might
I
just
said
be,
this last year. I think it's always great to say yes to the application and go in it and let it work you. Like, oh, what is my impact? What is my voice? What is my demographic? How would I market this? Like, let the application help you excavate and get clearer about who you are in your show. Do the footwork and surrender the results to God, as they say in 12 steps. Sorry, getting a little added.
I literally did that when I applied.
Right? Don't know.
I would add, I think this was already said, but definitely also create a doc. Like create a little doc as you're entering these. It's a Google form, it'll save it, but just have a doc on like your notes or whatever it is, but just have something where you're responding. I wanted to add something else, which was I think it's, well, 2 things. One, very quickly, I think it's helpful, those questions, if you are going to be a person who's applying to a fellowship or anything, because a lot of these questions will be asked in future, whatever you're applying for. So even if your show doesn't get picked, at least you have these responses that you can use for a future application to whatever it is, a residency, a fellowship, a grant, etc. And as somebody who's applied to a lot of things, like these questions sort of live in the same neighborhood. They're reworded, but kind of what Tia always talk about. You will be asked about your intention and how can you succinctly talk about your project, the spirit of it, in only so many characters or words. And then I will also add, for people who have cold feet, you lose nothing by applying other than like your time and I guess like sanity. But I say that playfully. Well, I mean, listen, I did it as somebody who did it like very stressfully in a very short amount of time. And again, I don't recommend that. But I think if for whatever reason it gets offered to you, if anybody here, this is just my hot take, if anybody here is lucky enough to sort of get it, then that's the time to assess, okay, do I really want to do this? But right now applying, I think that's sort of what I'm saying. Apply and then you can make a decision if it's actually offered to you and you can figure out what you want to do from there. But by applying, you gain a lot more. Don't lose your sanity. Yeah, and of course I say that playfully, but I think other than like sitting down, I'm a procrastinator, so like the sitting down of working on a thing can make me very anxious. So that's kind of what I'm touching on. Like the work of it, I think is very helpful. Like take the invitation and then figure out the rest later.
Yeah, because people are going to ask you in future applications, so what makes you unique? What is it you're saying? What do you bring to this conversation that hasn't already been had? And it's really
Yeah.
to kind of like go, oh, what are the answers to those questions? Because it's going to show up for you again if you continue to do your show or other shows.
Fantastic. I do want to leave one more thing. But we've covered so much ground, which is amazing. So maybe we've already covered it. But any final thoughts, words of encouragement? I have a little thing that I want to shout out what both of you are doing in a second. But yeah, are there any final words of encouragement, final thoughts that I know maybe were percolating that really we didn't get to with these questions? And if not, that's totally fine.
I'm somebody who loves body doubling, like having somebody as an accountability buddy. Tell somebody you're applying for this and have them check up on you like every whatever makes sense for you. Every couple of days or every couple whatever. I have somebody right now that's sort of doing like I'm doing that for somebody. And whether that be like, hey, can you look at this really quick or spread it out. I would give yourself like unreasonable deadlines, meaning like, okay, I got to get something, answer a draft, come up with like a draft of an answer by Friday, and then keep sort of maybe take one question every other couple of days as opposed to sitting down in one. So I would say find an accountability buddy for sure.
I love that. As a person who's ADHD, I love the body doubling. It's so great.
It's very helpful for me.
I would say you can look through the questions and I would pull the questions out and put them on a separate document. Like I wouldn't do it in the thing and have to back up and just like pull it out so you can really see the landscape of what are we asking. And then like Christopher said, chunk it down. Just like, give yourself some time. It's good to have somebody look it over. Good to have somebody look it over. But I think what I really want to say is like be willing to receive the help. you know yeah, like put yourself out there and be willing to receive the help. I think there's something spiritual about that, is saying my art has value and I'm willing to be backed and supported in this way, not just because we want to represent people who are marginalized, but like back yourself enough to say I deserve to get this kind of support.
No, that's pardon me. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And yeah, it sometimes is this thing that you forget. They're like, oh right, asking for support is a thing I can do. I don't know. Sometimes I get wrapped in my head and I'm like, no, 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 I couldn't possibly. I have to do something else. And I'm like, oh, no, you could have done that, Roddy. It was okay. But thank you both. I want to shout out what you are working on. And TL, you have a show that we have been talking about. I think you dropped in the chat too, going up at the Whitefire Theater. I believe it's in the Sherman Oaks area. When is it? It's in February. It's on the green screen. This is perfect. This is fantastic. I because I just think it's cool to shout it out. And Christopher, you have a is it a regular monthly series? Fail Better Story Time. Do you want to shout it out a little bit? Because I might not have the pitch line and
Yeah,
TL.
we're every second Tuesday. We're typically in Chinatown, and it's a space where people can come tell a true story that's very much in draft mode, and then the audience gives you feedback, and I facilitate and moderate that conversation. I'll throw my IG in the chat if folks want to check it out. But yeah, we're typically in Chinatown. In January 13th is the next one. We'll be in Sereno, El Sereno. My sister has a restaurant there. So we're just doing like a pop-up. Yeah, come by.
Oh my God. I also love that you were discussing like how you were going to a lot of those 10-minute, 5-minute places, and now you've brought in and facilitate a space for that, which is so cool. And TL, please, if you could tell us a little about your show as we've been getting into what pitches are all about.
Oh, yes. My show is called Between Two Worlds. I wasn't canceled, just confused. Chronicles of the Not Deaf Enough Girl. And it's about how I was canceled for doing my first solo show from my community for speaking and hiring a hearing director. And it's got excerpts from my original show, original rock music. It's got a lot of commentary on the disability community and how to have that third way in a very binary world that we live in. And I'm opening at Solo Fest, so I'm very excited. So I hope you can come and see it. It's going to be great.
Incredible. And that's the thing too, like again, we're talking about community. There's always so many things that you get the joy of supporting and seeing. So it's exciting.
Yeah.
Last thing I'll shout out is the future scholarship FAQ sessions. So we have two coming up in the new year. January 6th from 7 to 9, that's on a Tuesday. And on that next Tuesday, January 13th from 7 to 9, we have FAQ sessions coming up where you can have questions on the application as you're filling it out. Come to these spots. A staff member will always be around and check in, ask if you're unsure. It truly is super easy, super helpful, and we're on Zoom. We're just hanging out. But yes, okay. Thank you so much, Christopher and TL, for a lovely panel. Thank you so much, not only for the wealth of knowledge, but also, again, like I was saying, it gets dark way too early. It really messes with my mind. And this environment is so fulfilling and creatively like rejuvenating. So also thank you everyone for coming to this. Whether you were raising your hand, leaving emoticons, or just like witnessing it all, it does mean a lot. And it makes me that much more excited for not only this program, but Hollywood Fringe 2026. Because the world is crazy, but this feels nice. So I like to just kind of live in this moment for a second and carry that with me as we move on. But yeah, I'm gonna pull up a thanks for coming screen. I'm gonna play some music and that'll be the send off. Yeah. Thanks for coming, everybody. Let's see if I can do this elegantly.